All right, folks, welcome. I am here with Kevin Levrone. This is going to make YouTube. I think this will make fluff too, because I don't think we're going to be diving into any deep state issues or any kind of crazy shit like that. Although you're comfortable with talking about whatever, but this will be on Nino's Corner.tv and YouTube. Kevin, I appreciate you coming on, man. I've talked to you a few times on Instagram. First of all, people that don't know you, that are not familiar with bodybuilding, I saw you in the 90s. You guys were fucking monsters. You guys were amazing specimens. Still are, I'm sure. You're the Arnold. You won the Arnold Classic twice. 23 pro shows, best record in bodybuilding history, and runner-up 4 times for Olympia. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, yeah.
Man, that's impressive. And I got reminded. I got reminded of you once again when I was watching the Ronnie Coleman documentary, and I was just like flabbergasted looking at this going, wow, man. Like, I watched The Alpinist and then I watched the Ronnie Coleman, and I was like, what these guys have in common is they had no limitations. They just kept going. It was almost like that component of fear or whatever. They just pushed through it and went all the way. And I saw you on the documentary, and you were saying, I guess I'm giving you credit for pushing that guy to be a 9-time Mr. Olympia, right? Is he a 9-time Mr. Olympia?
Definitely. Yeah, he went 9 times, man. Oh, actually 8. Ronnie went 8. Yeah, he went 8.
He went 8? It was 8?
Yeah, he tied Haney's record.
That's crazy. So, but at the same time, you were the one that sat him down, gave him some pizza, some vodka. What, that was before the show?
Yeah, it was the night before the show we had over in Russia. Back then we had all those, we would do world tours, and about 8 shows after the Olympia. So we had time to really spend with each other and get to know each other. And, those are the good old days, man. And he knocked on my door one night. He said, hey, man, what are you doing to win all these shows? Because previously I had won like 6 shows, and I think this was one of the last shows. And I kind of like set him down, and I said, well, what are you doing? And I saw that he was just too strict. He was being too strict with himself. And he had to relax. Sometimes when you relax and just let things go and just let it fall where it needs to, and that's exactly what happened. And to get him in that state, I just said, look, man, have a shot of vodka, He said, I don't drink. And I said, listen, maybe you need to try this. We're in Russia, so let's just relax a little bit. And he did that. And he sat there and cheered it up in the room. And I woke up probably about 8 hours later, walked on stage and didn't recognize the guy. And
wow,
he went on to win 9 Mr. Olympias after that.
That's crazy. All because you got him to relax. In boxing, I remember there were so many fighters, man, that I would see the old Mexican fighters in the dressing room sleeping on the couch before they got out. I mean, we're getting ready to fight, and these guys are asleep on the couch before they go out. I mean, that's how relaxed they got. And some of them, I see them sometimes taking a shot of tequila before going out into the ring. Francois Botha, James Toney. I mean, I've sparred James Toney a few times in wild card boxing in LA, and I remember that he would reek like weed. And I was like, damn, man, this guy's a world champion, man. He smells like weed. I mean, everyone's different, different strokes for different folks. I mean, whatever gets you going. But, the thing about you guys in the 90s, man, I think that for me was like after Arnold Schwarzenegger going into the 90s, looking at you guys became fucking monsters. I mean, chiseled to the core, but like way bigger than anything we've ever seen prior. And you guys were on the forefront of all this. And I know that you've competed against everyone. You've competed against everyone, but what guys do you believe didn't get their fair shake at winning? And I know you could probably say you did. You didn't get your fair shake at winning, but I know there's a lot of whispers among bodybuilding because it has to be the same as boxing. But like, who really should have been a star but just fell a little short?
Yeah, Dave. I mean, you're an athlete, man. You know how it is. As an athlete, it's that bittersweet. I didn't win the Miss Olympia. If I had won the Miss Olympia, thinking about it now, my first Olympia was in 1992. I got second. If I had won that show, I probably would have stopped because that was my goal, just to win that show. Because I didn't win that show, I went on for another 14 years, 15 years. what comes to mind is when I think about who I've been on stage with fighting for that show, and I'd have to say Flex Wheeler, definitely. Sean Ray,
Lex Wheeler.
definitely. Um, let's see, probably NASA Elson Body, because I believe that one year NASA got robbed. Um, Rich Gaspari, you think about Rich Gaspari, think about Lee Labrada, but my era, for sure, who comes to mind is Flex Wheeler and Sean Ray. Nobody could argue about that.
I remember watching, watching you guys on ESPN, things like the networks that carried the, Mr. Olympia or Arnold Classic, whatever, I can't remember. But I also remember getting the magazines, Muscle and Fitness, Muscle Mag, all that. I mean, I was a kid, like you're a bit older than me, but I was a kid looking at those pictures going, man, I was already dead set on boxing. You can't be a bodybuilder in boxing, but if I could do it all over again, Kevin, if I could do it all over again, bodybuilding would have been the sport for me, man. Or
Really?
anything where I don't take punches.
Right. Hey, how long did you box, Dave?
Too long. I started at 5 years old and I fought amateur up until I was 21. And 21, I spent over 20 years in the pros, top 10, top 5. Just started losing myself towards the end when I started getting into alcohol and drugs, and I just lost it, man. I just spiraled out of control and a lot of bad things happened. So for me, boxing's a brutal game, and you got to always be on top. You can't miss even a hair. And I know that's any sport, that's any sport. And that's why I admire you guys in bodybuilding, because you guys, the dedication in bodybuilding, man, eating right, eating certain times of the day. The people don't know that this sport is serious. You guys took this sport very, very serious, right? I mean, it was like your whole life, like any other sport is.
I mean, sitting back, listening to you say those things, it brings back a lot of memories of missing Thanksgiving, not being able to celebrate with your family because you had a show coming up within a matter of weeks after Thanksgiving, so you couldn't go off your diet. Christmases, a lot of Christmases as well. Family reunions, my family always had a family reunion around about August, and Olympia at that time was back around about September. So I missed a lot of family reunions because I just couldn't be around and watch the indulgent in something that wasn't part of my training. So, and I think back, man, you take that expanded over 14 years, right? So we would always say, what is it like being retired? Well, it's like being able to be a normal person again. I can spend time with my families, catch up, a lot of lost time, 14 years with my sisters and my brothers, and get into the race cars. That's something that I was really into. Now I'm back into, the car thing again, and my music, and just being a normal person, being able to look around and enjoy people and not be so self-centered on myself. I have a 15-year-old son right now. I'm involved with strength conditioning coach at Calvert Hall High School. So, I'm giving back in ways of just not being so selfish with the way that it is. Bodybuilding is a very selfish sport. And, it's all about you and you eating and you, training in the gym and you healing and you going on say it's not a team thing, as well as boxing. So, how you can become so focused to where, you don't even care what's going on in the outside world. Like really, that don't even exist because it doesn't affect you. So it's that kind of mindset of a mentality to where you don't need anybody to accomplish anything. All you need to do is believe in yourself. So I'm glad that I made it through it. I don't know what kind of person I was. I don't think anybody being that self-centered is a good person to really be around.
Probably quite narcissistic in a way too.
Yeah,
because...
I mean, that's kind of like but I stayed away from people. I didn't show my body. I didn't show off. I just stayed away, locked up in my realm, and just went out when it was time to compete. And then I came home and just lock it down again. And that was just it. But 14 years of being locked down like that, being like a machine, you kind of get tired of it. And people say, well, you know, do you miss the gym? No, I absolutely don't miss the gym. I watch what I eat. That's what I've learned. You know, it keeps me healthy. I always watch my health now. And, you know, just being a father, man, I'm enjoying life.
It's a lot more peaceful, and I can relate to that as a fighter. It was just I, me, I the whole time. It's selfish,
Yeah.
self-centered sport. It's a bit, I believe boxing is a hell of a lot more self-destructive than the personalities I knew in boxing were. We were all crazy. I mean, fuck, you got to be crazy to get in the ring and fight someone to the fucking death. You know what I mean? Fight some big
You know,
monster.
let me ask you, like, how was your training? Like, how did you train? Did you have to eat anything special? What was the mindset of a professional boxer? How do you even prepare for that?
Junkyard dog, man. You just got to be meaner than the next guy and be willing to go the extra mile more so than the other guy. I mean, you don't ever. Boxing was only, and I'm sure you can relate this to bodybuilding. Boxing is only faithful to you if you're faithful to it. And if you cut corners, that bitch is going to cheat on you. And and you know, and that's the way boxing is. But a lot of fighters, man, and when the top guys, man, the very top guys was you know, in my era with like Rockman, Lennox Lewis, James Toney, Holyfield, they were all very, very they were all so different, but they had the one thing that tied us all together, and that was that junkyard meanness, killer instinct that some fighters either you have or you just don't have it. And you know, it's that killer instinct. You know, when you see that the seconds, that moment, that notice of a little wobble or whatever, you boom, you're right on that guy trying to take him out. And just the love of that, you know, is just a bloodthirsty love. But now my life is so different. Like my outlet is the podcasts and getting to interview interesting people like you, which I find fascinating because, bro, I'm telling you, I saw all your stuff in the magazines. I was like, man, this guy is very interesting. I saw it on the Ronnie Coleman thing. I was like, I got to interview this guy. And you're also what we consider, which I'm going to get into, is, you know, you consider yourself a patriot. And I wanted to learn a little bit more about that, where you see this country going. But first, I want to ask you another question. How much is bodybuilding rigged? I mean, is it like boxing? Because, man, we get up there, we fight our hearts out, and the fucking judges give it to the other guy. And you know it's a robbery. We've seen it plain as day in boxing with, you know, I can look back on De La Hoya and Trinidad. I can see a lot of other, you know, there's a lot of other fights that are just robberies. Does that happen? Is it as prevalent in bodybuilding as it is in boxing?
It's something that I felt like during my era, it happened a lot, you know, because you would have eight-time Mr. Olympias, 6-time Mr. Olympias and things like this. Now you don't see it that often. Now I think the judging criteria, you know, it's certainly changed. Now I think you know, the guy that deserves the win pretty much, you know, gets the nod.
So you think it's gotten a little more fair?
It's gotten a lot more fair, yeah. I believe so. You know,
how do you look at the athletes today that are competing in bodybuilding? You know, if you look throughout the generations, like I think the best looking body that in my personal opinion, that I've seen is Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think he just looked like a beautiful specimen, right? When I look at someone like Ronnie Coleman, not taking anything away from him, he just looks like a fucking monster. You know, he's just huge all the way around, huge, and not. It's just my preference. I think the more athletic kind of build is Arnold. What would you say to that? What, like, how do you feel? How do you see bodybuilding going? What direction is it going? Do you think the men today are just not as dedicated? Are they more dedicated?
Well, I think, Dave, I think it's I think it's two things. Let's take a look at the sport in general, right? The sport in general, I think, has elevated to another whole level with social media and so many different divisions. You know, now they have it's not just hardcore bodybuilding like us. They have men's physique, they have classic bodybuilding, they have so many sectors now to fit those physiques like, you know, you like and what other people like, you know, different tastes. Some people like the mass monsters, which are the guys that walk on a Mr. Olympia stage. The downfall of that is not everybody can relate to it. Exactly like you said, you know, and if it's not marketed right in the right way, then it's not going to be that popular. You got like classic bodybuilding, you know, which is the class that they made, and the IFBB, and that's taken off, and it's huge. And you have men's physique, and you have all these other sectors to where the International Federation of our sport of bodybuilding has certainly grown. It's blown up. And then you think about how many pros they have nowadays. I mean, probably got, back when I was competing, it was probably about 140.
Wow.
140, total of 148 pros. A list used to come out and Muscle and Fitness, and it would list all of the pros because they would rank us. Now, out of all those pros, you probably only have 30, 35 pros that would circulate on the circuit, in hardcore bodybuilding. And that's a lot when you're trying to find out, who the best in the world is. And you actually knew the name: Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, Lee Haney, Lee Labrada, Rich Gaspari. It's like you can just name them, Sean Ray,
Right.
da. So, but nowadays, you have in the thousands,
Jeez.
probably 5,000 or 6,000, maybe more than that. I don't even know, like, the names, because it's blown up so huge.
So
and
it's it's a lot like boxing. Boxing has so many different belts now. So you're saying bodybuilding's kind of fallen into the same hole, like where it's like all these different categories, everybody's winning a trophy.
Everybody's winning a trophy. There was a show they just had a couple weeks ago. There were like 20 pro cards to hand out, something astronomical like that. Back in the day, there was only like 4 a year. Now there's like 20, maybe at, one show, 10 at one show. So it's a lot going on. God bless the sport. God bless, the federation for opening up the gates of opportunity like that. But when you come back to hardcore bodybuilding, you don't recognize the names, who is Mr. Olympia now? You don't recognize, like, the fame has kind of gotten away from it.
Who is Mr. Olympia right now?
It's just Mr. Olympia is the big guy.
You're having trouble naming him. There's a problem.
I got a break. Ramy.
Okay.
Ramy is Mr. Olympia right now. He's from, I think, originally from, just from the Middle East.
Gotcha.
Ramy's Mr. Olympia. It's his second time winning. So, but this is where the sport is now. Leading back to where you were saying about the physiques, I particularly like classic bodybuilding, man. I think this class of classic bodybuilding is certainly it's starting to blow up.
Is it so? That's a new category. It's called classic bodybuilding.
Yeah, and if
really?
Chris Bumstead. I mean, these guys, they're incredible. They have that mainstream look.
What's the cat? So what is it? What makes it a classic bodybuilding? What's the difference in that?
The weight, the stature, the weight, and it's controlled. They can't get but so big, and they call it classic because the poses are all classic then in their presentations. But it's the weight, it's the tie-in of the small waist, like the Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Frank Zane. So they brought that back.
Wow.
And it's blown up. So that was a smart move. And
when anybody looks at bodybuilding, they go, "Oh, they're all cheaters. They all use steroids, this and that." And I know steroids are prevalent in bodybuilding. I mean, come on, we all know that. But as in boxing, as any sport, it's in everything. Some of these guys that you see that are just almost like their obliques are huge, their chest is huge. They have that growth hormone look, I guess, would it be, with a bloated stomach, right? How prevalent is? I mean, they even have I remember they had a category. Natural. It was called natural, right? Their own category of how prevalent is the steroid use in bodybuilding? How bad is it? Is it monitored well, or they just don't care?
I think it's like having a child and you raise him right, but you really don't know what he's doing in his bedroom every single night.
Right.
I think the federation, they try to have a hands on it as much as they can, control the athletes as much as they can. But if a human being decides that they want to do something overboard and to the extreme, they're going to suffer the consequences of it. And it sooner or later it catches up to you. So
Yeah.
I don't blame the federation for someone else, abusing their body. That's their choice.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like, you just got to realize where, of course it's there. I went through it. I used it, did what I had to do, but there's use and there's abuse.
Right.
And then there's things now with technology so far advanced, you can get your blood work done. There's so many things that you can do to take care of yourself, to take all precautions that you need. And some people are doing it, some people aren't doing it, and that's almost in any sport, right, Dave?
Right. Well, I
So
mean,
that's just the
I
way it
dabbled
is.
with it, and I'm seeing a doctor
Yeah,
now where they test my
yeah,
blood, and
man.
I have to do hormone replacement therapy because I didn't have doctors back then tell me what to do, what not to do.
Exactly.
I fucked my body up pretty good. So now I have to, take HCG and the whole testosterone replacement therapy, and that's just my life now.
Yeah, because guess what happens when see, people don't realize that, as men we get older, we start going through male menopause.
Yeah.
Our testosterone drops, everything starts getting elevated. We get moody. Sometimes people get depressed. Some people go into deep depression. Just don't know what's wrong with me. And now we can actually fix that. Through hormone replacement therapy. So I'm glad you're getting that done, man. It definitely works. What clinic are you using?
Laredo medical health spa in Laredo, Texas. Weight
Yeah,
loss clinic and spa. So they just, I see the doctors there every few months,
that's
and then
good, man.
because I have to, because I mean, like you said, like honestly, I have no energy. I'll feel lethargic. I feel depressed. All the symptoms. I get them all. But when I'm back on a normal regimen of testosterone, I feel great. I get a
You
little
feel
bloated though.
like, uh-huh.
I get a little
But you
bloated.
feel like you feel happier, right?
Yes, a better
Yeah.
elevated mood. But
Mindset. Yeah.
right. And also, I also wonder, also, Kevin, how much has that contributed to punches to the head? I mean, I've taken 20 plus years of that, in the gym, in sparring the top guys in the world, then fighting, I don't know what kind of damage I've done to myself. I'm scared to even
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah. I hear
But
you, right?
Kev, you guys, like I said, like you guys were monsters back in your day, and I'm just going to keep you a little bit longer. You guys were monsters back in your day. Who was the most, and I've always wanted to know this, who to you was the most intimidating presence on stage that you went next to him and you're like, shit?
I didn't go next to anybody saying felt intimidated, to be honest with you, because I had that like killer man mentality to where, but I can tell you who drove me to absolute, who pushed me, who raised my game because I wanted to just beat him so bad. That was Dorian Yates. So it was because of him, and every year he just kept getting bigger and better and better. It pushed me, push my envelope to do more and to be better and to up my game. And I'll give you an example. When I first competed against Dorian, I was 227 pounds. And 1992 was my first Olympia. I got second. I think Dorian came in at 237, 38, something like that. Next time we came up against each other, he had put on like 15 pounds, 20 pounds. He started competing in his 40s, and then he started competing 257. Then he started competing in the 60s.
He started in his 40s?
I'm talking about 240 pounds.
Okay.
Like he was one of the first bodybuilders that stepped on stage in the 260s, you know.
Wow.
So he started off, you know, here, but every year he just kept growing and growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more mature. You know, not only was he getting bigger, but his muscles were getting more dense and looking like stone and looking like rock. And I was just like, man, what is he doing? You know, but it had a lot to do with his mindset because he's from England. He was a tough guy. You know, I remember going over there and training in his dungeon called the Temple Gym and in England, and I just saw it was like going into a cave, you know, no heat in the wintertime. It was just grungy, hardcore. So that environment, you know, and cold over there, jewelry and nothing fancy. And he brought that to America, you know, and it was something that we had never seen before in bodybuilding. He took the whole, he was the guy that brought the mass game in,
Yeah.
you know, because each year he just elevated. And bodybuilding had never seen anything like that. Good thing about that was bodybuilding never seen anything like that. And it was Joe Weider's vision to implement that. And it opened up the world because Dorian Yates brought the international world to the game. You know, we had Mr. Olympians, but all of them were in the United States. You know, here we get, there's a guy from England nobody knew about. And that's how he got the nickname of the Shadow. You just saw him every year. And every year he stepped on stage, he was getting bigger and bigger. And he didn't talk much. And he just left and went back to England. There was a mystery about him.
Wow.
And that's what made it so fantastic and so great. So yeah, definitely Dorian Yates elevated the game, you know, for me.
How many Olympias did he win?
He won 6 in a row.
Oh, wow, he won 6.
Yeah, he
wow,
won 6 in a row. And then he retired. He never got beat.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many of these bodybuilders, Kevin? I don't know if you're facing it now. I have a lot of aches and pains. I had back surgery. I have a lot of problems. How many of you guys are dealing with that now, like in your older years, in your later years? How bad is your...
I think, I'll be honest with you, Dave. I think it catches up to all of us, you know. You know, I was talking to Ronnie. Ronnie said, you know, he wouldn't change anything about his training he said if he had a chance to do it, he'd redo it again, you know, the same way. You know, if you look at him, I mean, he's not Ronnie Coleman that we're used to seeing. But he's a warrior. He's a warrior, and you see that warrior mentality, and he's carrying those scars with him. And you look at him and you realize, wow, now you see it wasn't what's going on the outside with him, it was something on the inside of Ronnie Coleman that just drove him, that made him so special, because he's still now in the gym training, you know. And that's something beautiful to see, but you do carry you carry the scars. My back hurts, you know, I got side issues going on. You learn to live with that because that's part of the journey. Yeah. I mean, you know, the way we train is just another whole level of training. So.
Do you see guys today, you know, when I look at you guys back in the 90s, man, and I think in a weird way, to me, that was like the best of bodybuilding, in my opinion, but I'm a 90s guy, whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, when you see the guys today, do you find them to be as dedicated as that? The mental toughness you guys had back then was like the boxers back then. I don't see it today, really, in my opinion, just my opinion.
It's not there today because everybody wants to be superstars. You know, everybody's worrying about, you know, showing off and looking fancy and
on social media,
and how many likes they can get, and, you know, watering down the whole process. And you don't see the hardcore black and white, you know, videos of somebody, you know, getting down in the gym, you know, coming out in the magazine. Now it's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on.
I feel the same way about boxing. It feels like we're a dying breed. It's
nothing but a big fake world of showing. You know, how many likes can you get? How many of this can you get? You know, and then before the Mr. Olympia even starts, you know, you got, I call it online prejudging. You know, everybody's posting what they look like a month out, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, leading up to the show. You know, the mirror,
which never would have happened before, right? Because you don't want to tip your hand.
Never would have happened, and that was the mystery about it. You know, and I talked to Joe Weider. I spent a lot of time with Joe Weider, and I said, Joe, you know, why can't I beat your Mr. Olympia? Why can't I beat Dorian Yates? Why can't your Mr. Olympia guys get beat? Joe Ida told me, he says, out of all the other shows out there, you can go and this happens. He goes, well, people just keep filling the seats at the Mr. Olympia, Kevin, because they want to see if he's going to get defeated this year. That's the mystery about the Mr. Olympia. You take that away, then the mystery goes. And you know what? He was right. He was right.
So there's really no more mystery. There's no more mystery. It's sad because I'm seeing it in all sports. I think social media really did a huge disservice to all the really gridiron tough mentality that you have to be a pro athlete and be the best in your business. I just don't see it in today's generation. Before I let you go, Kevin, I almost called you Ronnie. Before I let you go, man, I consider you a patriot, man. I talked to you on Instagram. Are you concerned with the direction our country's going? Are you you see what's happening?
Concerned. I've been concerned.
And without using this, without talking about let's just point your shoulder on that because I'll get banned on fucking YouTube if I use that word.
What? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've been concerned because I've seen the change. You know, I go to Europe a lot. You know, I travel 20, 30 countries in the last 24 months. You know, I'm doing business in over 90 countries in the world with my Levrone Signature Series supplement company. So it's when I see and I go to, you know, Russia and I go to China or I go to Baghdad and I go to these countries and I see what's going on and I see how those people are. And then I come back here and then I watch the media. You know, it's two total different things, you know. And I think people are brainwashed by the media, you know, and I think people are weak-minded. And I think they follow the herd to the slaughterhouse, you know, and people need
and that's where they're leading us.
People need to wise up, man, and be smart and stop believing everything, you know, that you hear and that you see others doing, you know, find out for yourself. So going back to the whole Patriot thing, you know, for me, you know, there's a structure in life, you know, there's God, there's family, you know, and there's the man, this home and do right thing. I think the United States has definitely lost that structure.
Agreed.
And what's right and what God calls for us to do and what they have decided what they want to do for society. Almost it's like our government plays God, you know, and I think that's destroying a lot of people's lives and a lot of people are lost. There's a reason why that Bible has, you know, the 10 Commandments and that structure written in it. Because if we follow God's laws, you know, life is simple. Just follow what God wants you to do. And when you have a home and the father's out of order and the mother's out of order and they're constantly arguing and not getting along, it's going to become divided. The children are going to become lost, you know, and that's exactly what's happening with our government up there in the White House. You know, there's too much fighting going on both sides, you know, and it's causing disaster and it's causing chaos. And other countries are looking at us laughing.
Would you say laughing. That? Would you agree? This I preach this all the time, but I say this is completely engineered, and I believe you know in a bigger agenda here. Would you agree with that?
Of course. And you know, I've been following you, man. I've been watching all your stuff through the election. You know, and it reaches a point to where I was so frustrated with what was going on and how things were set up. And, you know, you reach that boiling point to where, you know what? And it's almost like, when you think about this, and I was thinking about this the other night, Who voted? Those are all of the people around us that thinks that way. So you think, and you look how dumbed down the United States has become, you see? And those are the people like you and I are trying to sit here and make sense and do business with and everything. It's like, where did we go wrong? What happened to our society?
Programming through the media, all the propaganda.
And I want to say one thing right now. It's like, where's George Soros? What happened to him? He just vanished.
Yeah. Well, he funded all the big Antifa, funded BLM. He was funding the caravans coming in. Yeah, now he did his part. I think the globalists feel they got this one. And it's sad to see America being flushed down the drain and losing our liberties, our freedoms that we pride ourselves on in this country.
Dave, we haven't even made it a year yet. How many ships and stuff and cargo is tied up at the seas. The food prices have gone through the roof. The gas prices are shooting up. People don't even want to go to work no more. Government handouts. It's like, what are you doing with the infrastructure of this country? It's being absolutely destroyed. And the sad thing is that all the other countries are sitting back watching this happen to us. I don't know if we can tolerate another 3 years of this going on with, the powers to be that's doing this right now. I mean, not even talking about the borders. Yeah, I know everybody wants freedom, and they should have their freedom, and they should have opportunities. But back in the day when you came over from a foreign country, you had papers. You went about it the right way. You weren't jumping over walls and smuggling into countries and stuff and getting away with it. And then the country allowing you to come in, and accepting that.
Take advantage of programs that our tax dollars pay for. And it's rewarding the lazy. They're rewarding these people.
And then we got our own people here suffering, starving on the streets. Families on the streets can't pay their bills, and we're not even taking care of them.
The veterans.
And so the veterans and just the whole spending of the budgets and how everything is structured and organized now, it's completely insanity turned upside down. And I would have to say that every whoever voted for the administration and then now has to realize and see the mistake that they made, that it was a huge mistake, that wasn't the right choice. You don't vote for someone because of the color of the skin. You definitely don't. And I think choices that a lot of people made were wrong choices, and now they're suffering from it.
They're
suffering from it.
Right. And a lot of people went to vote for Biden. Well, the people that did vote for Biden, let's make that clear. The small amount of people that did went in spite of Trump. It was mainly they hated Trump so much. And now we're dealing with the consequences. Kevin, where can people reach you, man? Where can you be found? I know you have a huge following on Instagram.
Hey, that's another whole topic right there when you start talking about today's society and life in general, where we're at. I mean, I could go deep on that, but let's just keep it surface right now. But you and I, we have to get together and do this again, because I could talk to you. I know I have to get ready to go, but I could definitely talk to you forever, man. And I'm glad you reached out to me. I want to say thank you. It's long overdue. You sound good. You look good, man. And no matter whatever you were going through, bro, you made it past it. But I always tell people this, we all have a testimony. None of us are perfect. I have my things that I've been through. You have your things that you've been through. It's when we recognize what we've been through and we embrace it and we process and we learn from that, so that we can go out and help others and talk about it. That's where our strength lies, and that's our purpose, because God brought you through that for you to be who you are now, and none of his disciples that he chose were perfect people. Nobody even knew who they were. So he don't work with people who's trying to be perfect or think that they're better than anybody else. Like, I can learn so much from a homeless guy out here who's been through it just by sometimes just watching him,
Yeah.
you know, and it makes me want to just go over him and say, what are you going through? What you been through? We all go through things in life. It's the adversities that we go through that creates us to be greater men, and if we can live through that, to be able to talk about it and to teach and uplift the other man, that's what it's all about. Life is simple, man. And that's exactly what you're doing. And I appreciate it. I'm glad you reached out to me, man. And I've been waiting for this. And thank you so much. I want to say thank you. Where they can find me is they can just Google me and everything will pop up. I'm not one of those guys where I walk around talking and trying to sell you something. What I'm trying to sell them is the same thing you're trying to sell. Wake up, be smart, make your own decisions, trust your decisions, believe in who you are, and help other people, and live a good, clean life. It's simple, man. And that's it. That's the key. Put God first, and we're going to fall. We're going to fail. Yeah. I'm not trying to be a perfect man, but I'm going to be the best. I'm going to do my best that I can, with this life that God gave me, not only for me, but to help other people, so, hey, man.
Well, all I can say, Kevin, is man, that's some very words of wisdom from a dying breed. That's what I'll name this. Words of wisdom from a dying breed.
There you go. There
Kevin,
you go.
Thank you for coming on, man. I won't take any more of your time. God bless you. And let's try to do a second segment in the next month or so.
Appreciate your tease, man. Happy New Year, brother. 2022. And let's
make
push
this one a good
forward.
one.
Yeah, let's push it forward to 3 years from now, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, you know who you have to have on? You got to have the Hodge twins on, man.
Yeah, you know what? I need to. You know what? I got to reach out to them. I'm gonna reach out to them because they're a funny crew, man.
Yeah, tell them that I sent you, man, because they're good friends of mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you can make the introduction.
Boys. I will. I'll make that introduction.
I would appreciate you.
As soon as we get off here, I'll call you in about 20 minutes, and I'll patch you in so you can say hi to Kev.
That sounds good.
All right, man.
Thanks, Kev. Later, man.
Peace. Thank you.